And then I need to share my screen. Beautiful. Okay. Welcome to the process, what this looks like to reclaim your health, reclaim your body. Again, as folks are rolling in, I'm just going to roll through where we've been in the past several months. And if you're coming in toward the end of this educational sequence, the good thing is that I roll through this like twice a year. So you'll always have access to it, and you can always go back on YouTube and find what you may have missed. Here we go. In the beginning, we talked about some universal fat loss principles of what's necessary in order to reclaim your health through weight loss. We talked about diet myths, the wrongs about dieting. We talked about diet truths, what's necessary to ensure that you get what you need from your weight loss experience, okay? Some of those individual principles that are most important to get what you need from your weight loss experience is one, to ensure that you're getting full on real food, okay? This hunger regulation thing is where this hormonal conversation starts, okay? Ghrelin and insulin and all of these things are related to your satiety and fullness throughout the day. And so as we focus on getting full on real food, we kind of automatically answer some of these questions about, I'm super hungry, I'm always thinking about food, there's always food noise. And we focus a lot on that protein and that real food to answer that, okay? We talked about everything fits. There's nothing off limits on this plan, and everything fits in terms of your movement as well. Resistance training is a non-negotiable, but what you do outside of your resistance training is pure joy, right? This morning I'm boxing, it's pure joy. That's not for weight loss, right? We do resistance training for weight loss. Okay, we talked about your mindset. We talked about how fat loss works. And again, if you miss any of this, you can go back in time. And this was lesson 1, okay? Lesson 2, am I going backwards? I sure am. Okay, lesson 2, we started to talk about protein and the purposes of protein. 1, it helps to build and repair tissue. And as we're resistance training, we're breaking down our tissues. We need to build back those tissues bigger and stronger. With that is the necessity of protein. The secondary necessity of protein is that protein keeps you full, right? If you have started to make this protein adjustment in your nutrition, you know this already. So if you need to go back to this, you can certainly go back. We talked about the food pyramid and how we've been swayed to overconsume carbohydrate and grain, and how we need to flip our food pyramid to be more so focused on high quality proteins, okay? Building upon our high quality proteins with fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, a little bit of starch, and a little bit of sugar, okay, just to maintain the balance. We then talked about activity and how your 7,000 to 10,000 step goal is a necessity for your activity. We then started to talk about what you need in terms of setting this up throughout your week. And again, if you missed any piece of this, please go back to the YouTube videos. If you need the link, I'll be sure to share them. And then we talked about exercise and your nutrition and how all of this kind of fits into your life. We talked about eating for the purpose of your resistance training. And the last time we talked about what this looks like if you're someone who trains in the morning. How do you need to set up your resistance training or set up your nutrition if you do your resistance training in the morning? How do you need to set up your nutrition if you do your resistance training in the evening, right? How can we use our carbohydrates to make resistance training more effective? And then we talked about, well, what happens if I'm not training today, Coach Kyra? Can I not have carbs? Do I only eat protein on that day? So go back to that video if you haven't seen that. Today, what we want to start with is a couple of key ideas, right? First is most of us are not training to be professional athletes. Most of us are just here to try to look and feel better. So there is strategy to this, but overthinking is the thief of action. So we don't want to overthink any piece of this. Today, I want to talk specifically about changes to your body type as we progress through this experience. There's a start wherever you're coming into this journey, and there's an end, which is wherever you want to stop on this journey, okay? And a spectrum along the way. So today I'm going to start with, we are all on some type of journey. Some of us are starting from what I'll call phase 1. Phase 1 being more than 40% of your body weight is body fat, okay? When you step on the scale, you have a number, weight, but that weight doesn't tell you what you're made of. That weight doesn't consider how much bone density you have. That weight doesn't consider how much food you have in your bowels from yesterday. That weight doesn't consider how much muscle mass you're carrying. And that weight doesn't consider how much fat mass you're carrying, okay? When we think about how you show up in the mirror, how you show up in your health, how you show up in your fitness, the biggest predictor of health and fitness is going to be your body fat percentage, okay? These two people, this lady down here and this lady up here, can both weigh 200 pounds, but one of them has less body fat than the other. And as we're pursuing this goal, right, we're trying to actively pursue body fat recomposition, all right? Hopefully this makes a little bit of sense. So the phases of fat loss. Most of us are here for the purpose of fat loss. I'm gonna talk about that, okay? Phase one, somewhere around 40% or more of your body fat percentage. So that means almost half or more than half of what you weigh on the scale is body fat, okay? Nothing inherently wrong with that, all right? Because we're here, we're working on it, we're addressing it, we're gonna try to get ourselves together, get healthy, okay? From phase one to phase two, maybe we drop something like 5% up to 10 or even 20% of your body fat percentage, depending on where you start. But we need to think about what's necessary as we graduate phases, okay? We might assume that from phase one, we might need to be paying a little bit more attention to my nutrition. Maybe I need to make some better nutrition choices. Maybe I need to avoid being sedentary for long periods of time. And when I start doing that, when I start making a little bit better nutrition choices, and when I get off the couch, now my body composition, my body fat percentage begins to change, okay? And the same thing from about 35% body fat down to maybe somewhere around 25 or 30% body fat. There are phases and changes that happen along the way. So I've gotten off the couch and I've started to pay a little bit better attention to my food. But from here to here, right, I've got off the couch, I'm paying a little bit better attention to my food, but now my resistance training is a priority, right? I'm trying to make sure that I'm getting my resistance training 3 to 4 times a week. And my nutrition is also a priority. And that feels different in our minds. I'm thinking about it to it's a priority. These are two completely different people, okay? When it's a priority, your body composition will reflect that it's a priority for me to get my steps in, for me to complete my resistance training 4 times a week, and for me to ensure that I'm hitting my protein target and staying within my macronutrients, okay? Down here is where that change starts to happen, okay? And when we think, well, what comes after, right? I lose the weight, I have a little bit of muscle, I'm toned up the way that I want to be, maybe I'm somewhere around 25% body fat. What goes on from there, right? Maybe you become even less body fat in the form of muscle building and muscle retention, somewhere between 17 and 20% body fat. These are athletes, right? Most of these people are the people you see on Instagram, okay? These are athletes. These are people who really, really, really pay attention to their nutrition and fitness. These are phase 5 people, right? And so they're in the gym maybe 5 or 6 times a week. They weigh and measure their food. They have a food scale that they're putting things on, right? They don't really do brunches and evenings out and weekends, and they're not participating in Halloween candy, and they don't drink alcohol, and they don't smoke, right? We think about the lifestyle of someone who's here, right, compared to the other phases along this journey. And then we have phase 6 plus, which are professional athletes and unsustainable for most people to ever reach. 13 to 17% body fat. Most people will never, ever, ever be here, right? It's very hard to get here. It's possible, but it's hard to get here. And I wanted to kind of spell out this spectrum from phase 1 all the way down to like phase 6 plus, right? Where you're a professional bodybuilder and you get paid for the way that your body looks and the way that your body performs. Go you, it's possible, right? People do it all the time. But I want to kind of share these phases because there are differences in lifestyle, difference in priority, difference in approach as you graduate these phases, okay? Any questions about these phases, how you will graduate through these phases, any reflections on this stuff, anything I can answer for you right away. And hello, by the way.
Hi, everyone. I have a question. If you are in phase 1, is the expectation to begin with 3 to 4 days of strength training, or is it a gradual process based on just you and your lifestyle?
Great question. If you're in phase 1, our objective is to get you moving more, get you off the couch, and get you paying attention to your food. I don't care about your resistance training right here. Because if I send you to the gym, there's a psychological, and some of us have talked about this before, there's a psychological aspect of being here for some people that makes it really, really difficult for you to step foot in a gym environment, right? Step one. Step two is the gym environment is like really the last little piece of what makes the difference here. From here to here, 90% of it is the nutrition, right? So we major in the majors on this issue. The majors being, let me get you up and moving, and let me get you really focused and aware of the habits and the tendencies that you have in your nutrition. In phase one, maybe even to phase 2 or 3, your resistance training program is not number one priority. Your number one priority is your nutrition and your daily activity. That's a good question. What else?
Coach Kyra, on average, how long do your clients stay in phase one versus the next phase and so on and so forth?
Good question. Good question. And it depends entirely on what you do when we're not on the phone, right? Everybody has everything they need to be successful to here. Everyone has everything they need to be successful up until they become a professional bodybuilder, right? What you do over the weekend, what you do in the evening, and what you do when we don't have our 30-minute check-in every week is what's going to determine how quickly this goes, right? So then what can you anticipate? What should you expect as you start to progress through these phases of fat loss, okay? A good kind of rule of thumb is every 12 to 14 weeks, expecting to lose somewhere between 1% and 2% of your body fat percentage, okay? Every 12 to 14 weeks, expecting to lose 1% to 2% of your body fat percentage. Coach Kyra, real numbers, what does that mean, okay? That means on average, you should expect to lose in 12 to 14 weeks, 12 to 14 pounds, right? You can go faster than that. You can go slower than that. It just depends on what you do outside of home. I do have some very unique examples, and we see this all the time in the science, in the literature, and the research as well, that people who are starting from phase 1 tend to graduate to phase 2 or 3 relatively quickly, right? Because we institute these lifestyle changes. And if you can be consistent with the lifestyle changes, you'll actually see your body weight start to change quite rapidly. You'll see your body start to change quite rapidly, okay? But when we think about, well, how long does this take? I'll answer that on the next slide. Any other thoughts about this? Miss Sonia, I thought I saw you pop off.
Yeah, I think you're about to answer the question. Good morning. I was just wondering, how do you know what phase you're in?
Perfect. Beautiful. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. Let's come back and let's see if we answer the question. All right. Here's what I want you to take away from this. Graduating from phase 1 to phase 6 takes time. And it's going to take probably more time than you ever wanted it to. I've been telling you this since before we even got on the phone. Since you found me on Instagram, you've been hearing this, that it's going to take much longer than you ever wanted it to. But as you give it the time that it takes, you'll master your current phase, right? Because the person who's in phase 1 versus the person who's in phase 3, are these the same people? It's not the same person at all. And you have to learn how to be this person before you can learn how to be this person. You don't graduate from kindergarten to a PhD. There are steps and time and learning in between. And so you go from phase 1 to phase 3 and you learn how to maintain this, right? And then you can go from phase 3 to phase 4 where you learn how to maintain that. And phase 4 to phase 5 where you learn how to keep that. Because the problem for most of the people who are on this call is, I might have gone from phase 1 to phase 2 before, or I might have gone from phase 2 to phase 3 before, but I never learned how to stay there. But the object here is, once you graduate to this phase, you need to prove your mastery, right? Prove your mastery before you move on to the next phase. So let's go back to the highlights. It takes time. It's going to take more time than you want, but with time, you will master your phase and graduate to the next one. The great thing about your body is that you can and you will go from phase 1 to phase 6 if you want it badly enough. Your body will make these changes. But the question is, can you persist? Can you show up and do the things that someone who's in phase 3 or 4, or phase 5 plus, shows up and does every day? Because we can look at this professional CrossFitter, right? Does CrossFit full time. We can look at her and kind of think, or at least imagine what she does every day, right? She probably trains 2 or 3 hours a day, at least 5 days a week. She lifts really, really heavy weights. She has a programmed, strategic program. She pays very close attention to her steps. She's weighing and measuring her food. She doesn't drink alcohol. She gets enough sleep at night, so she barely goes outside. She doesn't have a lot of fun. Are you willing to do what's necessary along the way to get the outcome, to get what you want, right? Can you persist? The body can't help but reflect your habits. Your body will reflect your habits. And so the question is, will it take you 4 months or 4 years to get where you're going? Neither of them is the wrong answer, right? But we can almost assuredly say that it's going to take at least a year from go to phase 1 to phase 3. And it might take another 8 months to go from phase 3 to phase 4. And it might take another year to go from phase 4 to phase 5. But if we're thinking like phase 5 like this, you want muscles and visible abs, oh baby, that's going to take two years, right? And if you want to be a professional bodybuilder, this is a 5-year goal. And I think what Instagram has done is made it so difficult to understand how time kind of fits into this. This is a time thing. This is a time conversation. So how long is it going to take? Well, it'll take 4 months or 4 years, depending on you. And depending how well you can stick with it, how well you can persist. Okay. I know that's not the sexy answer, but it's the true one. So what does that bring up?
I think for me, someone who's struggling in phase 1, this gives a perspective of what's actually happening and the difference between being interested and being committed.
I think you've named that perfectly. Because interest cycles from phase 1 to phase 3 for the past 15 years, right? Phase 1 cycles from phase 2 to phase 3 for the past 5 years, right? But commitment gets out of this cycle. Because commitment says, all right, cool, made it to phase 3, body is ready to take a rest. I'm gonna let it take a rest and pick this back up in January, February, be ready to persist. We have a long-term view, long-term commitment. And this is something I've been saying from the beginning too. Long-term commitment to these things because life is gonna happen. The holidays are coming up. I'm eating candy this weekend. Yes, we're in a sugar challenge. I don't care. I'm having candy this weekend, right? Long-term commitment. That's a great reflection. Anything else about this before we kind of move into the plateaus of metabolic adaptation?
I'm glad you did this breakdown because, as you know, that's something I've been struggling with, thinking like, oh, I've reached max potential. This is it for me. It did help put it in perspective. In that way, I actually was crazy for thinking I should be that much further along because I actually haven't even been at this half a year. So now I'm just like, well, what did I think I was gonna do in that amount of time? So this is really great. I agree with the first commenter. This is great for perspective.
And I think the perspective can open up a couple of different things. The perspective can open up excitement because you see where you've come from, you see where you can go. right? You see where you're headed. But the
Yeah.
perspective can also open up a little bit of guilt and shame and a little bit of frustration as well. Because here we are, well, God, hey, how long is it actually going to take me to reach phase 4 when I'm back into the size I was in college and I feel good about myself again? How long is it actually going to take? All right. Especially when we have these microwavable approaches to fat loss all over the internet. You can be 40 pounds down by the end of the year. Simply go try it. You can do JJ's smoothie cleanse. You can fast for the next 3 weeks. You can do the lemon and cayenne thing. You can do whatever it is that you need to do to be 40 pounds down by January 1st. But guess what? By March 30th, you will be calling me back because we have not learned how to be here. And we have not learned how to practice being here. And we have not learned how to practice being this person. This is lifestyle related. All of this is lifestyle related. How do you live? And this person, maybe it's getting her 7,000 steps a day. Maybe it's resistance training 3 times a week. But this person's doing something different. And this person's doing something entirely different. It's all based on our lifestyle and learning how to integrate this lifestyle into where you are in your life, allowing it to be something that sticks, allowing it to be something you practice week in, week out, day out, finding the small wins, letting it be the way you live is how you master and graduate out of these phases. Okay. Anything else about this?
Just a reminder, one of the other things that you talked me off of a cliff about was the comeback. Because life happens. And I think that's also another important step to this. Like I felt like I was on a really good clip with weightlifting, then I injured my back, and that's kind of taking me out of that. But you reminded me, like, this is life. This is what you have to learn to navigate around. So that was key. And that's when I was able to go on a work trip. I wasn't lifting weights, but I would start my day with the protein breakfast, drink as much water as possible. And I came home and I was still down 3 pounds. So the other thing I think definitely important to call out is, because that was hugely helpful for me, is that, like, no, you have to learn how to navigate this around life, because life will happen and you will not stop it. I had to go on that work trip. I hurt my back. I could have prevented it, but it happened. How do I navigate around it and keep going?
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm back up to my over 7,000 steps again this week. And my hope is the next week or so I can start weightlifting again.
Because you adapted, because you were willing to adapt and not fall entirely off when life started happening. This is why this lifestyle thing is so important. Because even if I'm traveling, or even if I'm on vacation, or even if it's candy season, and even if it's Thanksgiving, and even if I have to go to brunch this weekend, or even if they brought something to the office, this is my life. This is what I do. So I can grab myself a piece of candy, I'll pop it in, feel no shame about it. But what I don't do is grab a couple of handfuls of candy and take it back to my desk, right? Maybe I'll go to brunch and I'll make sure I get my first plate. It's going to be high in protein, give me some fruits and vegetables, and then I'm going straight to the waffle station. I can do both. But I've also learned that I want to get full on real food first, and I'm practicing that, right? When I have to travel for work, I'm a person who's getting up, taking my walk in the morning. Maybe one of my colleagues wants to join me as I go and get my steps. Or maybe I'm the person who isn't going to sit down through this entire lecture. I'm going to be the person in the back of the room who's standing and listening to you all talk. Because I know if I'm sedentary for the whole day, I'm losing calories. I need this extra burn, right? Your lifestyle is what shows up when life happens. And I think, actually, Sonia, if you want to come back real quick, I think you're a great example. I talk about you all the time. So if you're there, I'd love to have you back. I think you're a great example, probably a better example than you think, of staying with it as best you can when life starts lifing. What is all this opening up for you?
Oh gosh, a lot of things. I can't write fast enough. Perspective, absolutely. But some shame I'm feeling because it's like, you know, that wanting to reward myself uh on the weekends or come Friday, it's like giving myself a grade. I've done really well and wanting to reward myself with food or just the up and downs of life, you know, being an emotional eater. But then it kicked in that I was like, okay, I got to do this. I just got tired of playing with it. So just walking every day, getting a routine there. Um, and it's been slow. And as I listen to you, I'm just like, gosh, what phase am I in? And still feeling like I'm in phase one, even after dropping 50 pounds mentally in phase one, some days. Last night was a challenge because I started out with my grandkids were here. I was like, okay, I'll have a small bag of chips. uh it was 3 bags later, and so the beating up came, and it was like, okay, why did I, because nowadays, and it's no excuse, they have about 8 chips in those little bags. And I was like, I think I want one more bag, but I just couldn't control myself. And again, it's that I've had a great week. I've hit my strength, all of my goals that I have recommitted to. I have done it, and I get my last strength training in today, and it started. It's just that wanting to reward. I've been rewarding myself, but not with food, and
Mhm.
so, and if I choose to reward myself with food, it's built in my plan, or it's
Mhm.
counted for. But this is just bringing up a lot for me, but also excitement that I'm a visual learner, and to see this visually is just like, I just keep thinking about our last one-on-one. It's a guarantee that I'm going to get there.
Guarantee.
It's a guarantee. So I just need to, one of your slides said my body will reflect my habits. And that's just bringing honesty to myself, because my sister asks me all the time. She's one of my biggest supporters. When I'm getting in a funk, she's like, okay, Sonia, are you giving it 100%? And I hate when she asks me that. But it's because I have to be truthful. And in my mind, I'm like, yeah, I'm getting my steps in. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. But am I giving it 100? You
Yeah.
know, you can show up and still not giving it 100.
Mhm.
And so it's just getting real with myself on another level. And I
Yeah.
love it. I love it because, our call for next week, I'm like, I have this expectation of where I want to be. But
Yeah.
if the scales say something else, I mean, damn it, damn the scales.
Yeah. What do you
So
what do you do when the scale says
yeah,
something else? What do you do? Right?
I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep pushing, and I'm gonna keep seeing the truth in all of it, because I feel like the phases, even though I'm looking at the body fat, for me, the phases is getting realer and realer and realer with myself.
It's true. That's it. And I think this reflects a physical phase, but there are like 40 mental phases along this journey, right? These are
Mhm.
physical reflections, but this doesn't even begin to touch the mental changes that need to happen along the way, right? The mental shift from, I've had a great week, I can reward myself with this treat, and the mental shift from, treat's a treat, like it's food. Whatever. I had this on Tuesday. I can have it again today. I can have it again tomorrow if I want. There's a mental shift there. And there's another mental shift that says, I actually don't want this at all. I'm kind of hungry. I'm feeling a little snackish. I do want something sweet, but maybe I'll go for a piece of fruit rather than this candy. Are you willing to do what's necessary to get to that phase? Are you willing to do all of the things that are necessary to get to the next phase? And I think that's a mental shift that comes with each phase. Start here and you're willing to get up off the couch, and you're willing to start paying some attention to your food. And what else are you willing to do along the journey? Are you willing to be real about yourself, real about your habits, real about what you do over the weekend, real about your food log, real about your accountability, real when we have conversations? Are you willing to be real? Are you willing to be real about asking for help? Are you willing to be real about how much you're exerting yourself in your physical training? Are you willing to be real about this, about your sleep, about your hydration? Can you be real with yourself about these things? And can you be real as these things graduate over time? This is good. And Sonia, you said reminded me of the thing that we talked about last time, which is it's a guarantee to go here. It is 100% guaranteed. You can stop at any place along the way, but your body will go here. No matter who you are, it'll go here. Absolute guarantee. But can you do what's necessary? Again, can you be real with yourself and do what's necessary along the way to get to that place? All right. Anything else that we can add to this stuff? I appreciate you all too. For just being honest about this.
Coach,
Yeah.
so when we were talking and I said, oh, I'm sorry, somebody else talking.
No, that's you.
Oh, okay. When I asked you about the guarantee, I was like, well, I think I asked when you were in it, and I keep saying when you were in it. I know you're in it with us, but in my eyesight, you have a right. You're 6. You're 6 already. But what do we do to make sure it's a guarantee? I know we get our steps in, we do all the things, but I think you said to me something about making small goals, really small goals. And so what does that look like? Because I can say I'm making a small goal, but then it feels really overwhelming. So what does that look like?
Give me an example of what small goal you might set.
Well, hitting my 3 strength trainings this week, I pushed myself to get 10,000 steps instead of 8. The food logging, I've just brought that back in. So I'm thinking those are small goals, but they feel heavy.
I don't think those are small goals.
I'm sorry.
I don't think those are small goals.
You don't?
Talking, I was like, what?
See, that's what I need to know what that looks like. I don't know what small looks like, I guess.
Not a small goal.
Please share.
That's everything at once. Tara, boiling the ocean.
Yeah.
Ready, set, go.
That's what she's trying to do with that.
Boiling the ocean.
I would say like a small goal, a small goal is just making sure, maybe instead it's something like making sure that you get 3 mini versus for me, it was doing at least 3 mini walks versus doing at all and feeling overwhelmed because I had 45 minutes. Another one was upping my lean protein every day. And so I found of smoked salmon and I use those for my snacks. I think they give me like 20 something extra grams of protein. That's small. If no wonder why you would feel overwhelmed, because those goals that you just listed were not small goals.
Thank you. That helps. That helps. So I have a bunch of small goals within a big goal, I guess, and I need to break it down.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
And so, so then we talk about the breakdown. And that goes to, this takes time and it may take more time than you want. When you break down what you think is a small goal into an even smaller goal, right? Get 10,000 steps a day. It's not as simple or straightforward as get 10,000 steps a day. Get 10,000 steps a day thinks, crap, how does this fit around my work day? And I got to pick up my grandkids. I have to shuttle this child here. And then I need to resistance train and I need to cook food. And my husband wants my attention. And it's not that simple anymore, right? Get 10,000 steps a day seems very straightforward as it's coming from your mouth, but it has to also fit into your day, right? And so maybe as we're getting started, it's not 10,000. Maybe it's add 1,000 steps by adding 10 minutes of walking today. And maybe that 10 minutes of walking isn't just a chunk of 10 minutes of time. Maybe I add 10 minutes of walking by setting a reminder on my watch to stand up every hour. Maybe that's how you get an extra 1,000 steps. It has to be so small that when you think about doing it, it doesn't make sense, right? Set a reminder on my watch to stand up every hour is how you'll add 1,000 steps. If you get up and stand and you pace for 1 minute every hour while you're working, you will get an extra 1,000 steps, right? So from 8 to 10, maybe it's 8 to 8.5, right? And it goes back to, again, this takes time. It's going to take longer than you want because we'll have to graduate these micro goals over time. And maybe with your nutrition, maybe instead of I need to get 150 grams of protein, maybe it's I want to strategically have more protein at lunch, which starts with, I'm going to make a grocery list. It's that small, right? Those are the small goals. Make a grocery list, add 1,000 extra steps to my watch. What's that making you think in terms of scaling these goals back?
That helps a lot. And it shows me that I've been being ridiculous. But that helps a lot. I am I'm an all or nothing, and it's hard for me to find the gray area. I'm always focused on, breaking that ribbon, running through like I have arrived, and the in between steps is what get me tangled up sometimes. And that's why we revisit that all the time. I've been going, and then all of a sudden I tire myself out, and it just feels like, okay, I'm about to fall off the cliff. And that's because I don't live very much in the gray area. So thank you.
You're welcome. And when we set our expectations lower, they become much more attainable. It's a hack. It's a lifestyle hack. When I set an expectation so low that I absolutely achieve it, now I get to build this momentum in achievement, right? If I set my expectation to get 12,000 steps a day versus add 1 minute of standing to my workday, right? I'm adding 1 minute of standing every hour to my workday every day this week. That feels really good. But if I only hit 12,000 steps once this week, I feel really bad. And so that momentum builds upon itself. This good feeling builds upon this good feeling, and we get the ball rolling in the right direction so you can persist. The small goals is what makes it possible for you to even make it to the end of this thing. It's a guarantee. Your body will reflect your habits, but you have to make the habits so small that you can actually succeed at them. Make the habits so small that you can actually do them every day. Because if they're so big that you can only hit them once a week, you're not building momentum. Very small, ridiculously small. I can't believe I'm making a goal this small goals. And this is the safe space to share what those small goals are. Because we're all having the same conversation here. We're all pursuing something. We're all pursuing something, right? And so we need to set small goals, small victories, which is what we talk about on Wednesdays every week, okay? So by balance, I found that focusing on one micro habit for 1 to 2 weeks, then add something else. It helps me drown out the noise. Absolutely, 100%. Yes. Focusing on one micro habit for a week or two until it becomes something that you just wake up and do. And then you can graduate to the next micro habit. And these phases are all built of micro habits that were built upon each other. Okay. Beautiful. All right, ladies. I actually think, and I'll take a poll here really quickly. Do we want to finish out with metabolic adaptation, the phases of fat loss and how to avoid plateaus? Or do we want to come back to that conversation, well, that'll be next month, right before or right after Thanksgiving? How to avoid fat loss plateaus and what to do when you hit one, now or later. Taking votes.
How to avoid the plateaus.
Any naysayers? All right, cool.
I would take either one. I did like the other one that you had listed as well, but I know she's further along, so I understand wanting for that.
Okay.
I'm open to whatever. It's all helpful to me. I could even go for a repeat of what we just did.
Yeah.
That was just that was a lot to take in, and I want so much more of that. Yeah.
Okay. This might help. So let's do it, and then maybe this will tie the knot on some stuff. All right. Here's where we started. Setting up your calorie deficit for immediate wins and long-term transformation. Talked about that. Proven science-backed strategies to make this easier. We talk about this all the time. I'm giving y'all the 100% authentic, organic truth. You can go somewhere, try something else. I have some folks who have actually, in the midst of us working together, gone somewhere and tried something else and came back and said, Coach, you were right. I'm so sorry I cheated on you. You were right about everything. They're over there doing crazy stuff, and I can't believe these people. I love it when y'all do that. And so today, how to avoid fat loss plateaus and what to do when you hit one. This says when, not if, not just in case, not perhaps. This says when you hit a fat loss plateau, because it will happen. And I think this ties in really nicely to the graduation of phases. Because the anticipation is, I get to a place, my body decides it wants to have a plateau. And instead of thinking, what can I learn from this plateau? All right, so we're gonna talk about that here just a second. All right, metabolic adaptation is a weight loss stagnation that causes you frustration and could lead to weight regain if you don't know how to deal with it. So how do we avoid metabolic adaptation? Step one, we go moderately or slowly on your journey. This is the most painful part. Oh, goodness, Coach, I just want this to be over. I want to stop thinking about this stuff. Please tell me how much longer I have to go, right? Step one, we're going to go moderately or slowly so that you can avoid this happening in the first place, okay? Step two, we're going to recognize the warning signals of, hey, a slowdown or a plateau is happening. And step three, we're going to check in with our mindset as often as possible to ensure that we have the correct mindset to graduate these fat loss plateaus and phases, right? What is this? Metabolic adaptation is the body's compensatory physiological response to you starving. It's to save you. Your body is trying to help when you hit a plateau, okay? We love to see the scale going down, and we want to see it go down and track downward into oblivion until we hit this goal. We love to see the scale going down. But this is a new process that humans have been doing. Maybe over the past 100 years, humans have been intentionally trying to lose weight. Before that, before the past 100 years, humans who lost weight were dying. Before then, humans who lost weight were actually starving to death. And so the body, in all of its brilliance and magnificence, has a system to keep you from starving to death. That system includes shutting down processes that require your food, that require your nutrients. One of the first processes that gets shut down when your body thinks, not when you think, but when your body thinks you're starving to death, is your cycle. When your cycle starts to become irregular, right? And this is outside of the menopausal window. When your cycle's irregular, one signal. When you start to think about food all the time, it's the only thing on your mind. You're watching food cooking shows. You're smelling other people's food. You might grab something off somebody's plate. You're just always thinking about food because you're so hungry. You're losing sleep. You're incredibly sore. You're incredibly cranky. These are wonderful examples of the body telling you, hey, you're pushing a little too hard. We need to come back, make sure everything's cool. The check engine light is coming on. We need to ensure that you don't do this too fast and hurt yourself. Dieting, or what we're doing for the purpose of fat loss, trying to lose body fat, is controlled starvation. And this is why we have to go slowly with this, because the body is going to recognize that you're under eating and try to keep you from doing it. This is where binge episodes come into play. Have you ever gone a week of fasting or a week of juice cleansing or, fill in the blank, and all of a sudden it's just whatever I can find? This is your body's compensatory response to feeling as if it is not getting enough nutrition, okay? So the question is, if the body has this process already programmed to respond to starvation, can we avoid it? Can we avoid this plateau from happening? Can we avoid this drop off? And let's talk about that. Yes, we can, but it's a frustrating avoidance. It is so frustrating because it requires you to go more slowly than you want, ridiculously more slowly than you want. But I have a question for you. Would you rather go slow and keep this from happening, keep weight regain from happening, or would you rather start over? Please answer this question. Would you rather go slow or would you rather start over? Please answer.
Go slow.
I think what's funny is that I know for me, historically, I'm like, oh no, go slow makes sense. But how many times have I been on this ride before? Because you get tired of the go slow. So I ended up starting over anyway.
Oh my goodness. Going slow is the hardest part of this. It's hard. It's hard. I don't know what else to say. And it's making me emotional because I understand. I'm doing it with you all, right? Going slowly is the hardest part because you just want it to be done. I don't want to think about this anymore. But when I compare going slowly to going back to where I started, I'm ready to fight over that. I'm ready to pick up the gloves over starting over. I will not be starting over. It's been too hard to start over.
Yeah. I was thinking about how sad I was when I hurt my back. And I think our meeting that week, I was like, I can't do this. If I have to now, I have to start all over again. I don't have it in me to start again from the bottom of not being able to breathe when I'm starting exercise. And that part alone was horrific. Like the pain of having to go up steps and not be able to breathe in the exertion. And now I'm at the point where my body is like, well, this is hard, but we can do it. I started in May. My body was like, sis, we ain't doing this. The idea of having to go back to that, I told you, I was like, I'm not gonna make it. I'll never come back if that's. I remember
Can't
that
go back.
Yeah.
I can't go back. I'm terrified of going back. And so I'd rather go slowly, predictably, strategically than ever have to go back. I remember how my body felt. I remember how I felt in my skin, how I thought about myself, how I showed up in my family, how I showed up at work. No possible way I can go back. So we're going to go slow. And so what does going slow look like? Somewhere about 1% of your body fat loss per week. We talked about this. By 1%. So if you're 250 pounds, 2.5 pounds a week is anticipated up into 12 to 14 weeks. Okay. If you are 180 pounds, 1.8 pounds per week, up into 12 to 14 weeks. 160 pounds, 1.6 pounds per week, up into, right, week 14. Okay. We want to keep a high level of physical activity. I think for this physical activity, starting your spectrum, just depending on where you are in your phases, right? Starting your spectrum somewhere around 5,000 up to 10,000, and 10,000 being this happy place for most of us, okay? Being incredibly active. This is considered highly active, okay? 10,000 steps. A moderate calorie deficit. Most of us are not in super deep calorie deficits right now because we're going slowly, all right? You're in 1,000 calorie deficit. You can only do this for 8 weeks. But a 250 calorie deficit, you can do for 60 weeks and lose weight really without trying. So we want to find ourselves somewhere in between, okay? And your deficit speed determines the length of time of your deficit. Again, you go 1,000 calorie deficit, your maintenance calories are 2,500, you eat 1,500 calories a day, you probably only do that for 8 to 10 weeks. Then your body will hit this place. But if your body needs 2,500 calories a day and you eat 2,250 calories a day, you can go into oblivion and your body will continue to lose weight. Warning sign. Eventually, all of us will reach this point. So how can you suspect the caution signals as your metabolism adapts to being in a calorie deficit? When adaptation happens, one is your hunger. I'll ask you about this regularly. How are you feeling? You've been hungry lately? Scale of 0 to 4, right? 4 is, no, coach. Or yes, coach, I'm incredibly starving. It's 3 p.m. before Thanksgiving dinner and folks are still praying. I'm starving. Okay. 0 is, nope, not hungry at all. Post Thanksgiving dinner, I'm watching the game, about to fall asleep on the couch. How's your sleep been? If your sleep has been interrupted, I need to know. If you're feeling fatigued, not able to perform at work, or not feeling the energy to show up for your family, fill in the blank, I need to know about that. And then hormonal and reproductive changes, including your libido and sex drive. Okay. Might feel like it's TMI, but if this starts to change, I need to know. Okay. It's a good sign that we need to pull back a little bit. All right. What can we do? You have hired me to look for these signs. So what you can do is stay in communication about what's going on with you, right? There's no guilt and shame, and you needed help. When I ask what's going on, share. Tell me what's going on. And then when this does happen, what will we do? Immediately add back the food we took away. Immediately add back half of the calories that we took away in your deficit and take a deep breath. We're going to take a deep breath because as you immediately add back food, the body will immediately respond by holding on to water. This is not body fat. We've learned about water retention. Water goes away in a couple of weeks. You don't have to worry about it. Okay. Gradually continue to add back 250 calories per week with your weekly weigh-ins to watch for water retention and stabilization. We'll add back 250 calories per week. Your scale will go plus a pound, plus 0.5 pounds, plus 0.25 pounds, no weight gain. And we know we've hit the happy spot. Decrease the intensity of your exercise. Say, for example, you've been training at a level 7 to 10 for the past several months. We want to bring this to a level 4 to 6 for the foreseeable future because we need your body to heal. And then hit your protein and carbohydrate goals. This is not the time to try to stay away from carbs. Eat your food. The body is asking for food. Eat your food. The body is telling you it needs to recover. Eat your protein. Go find a candy bar. Eat some cookies. Have some bread. The body is asking for it. Okay, so this is how we'll correct adaptation. Let me stop here. This is the end of this portion. The next time we come together, yes, mindset, patience, accountability, and then whatever else you need to add to stay successful, stay focused on this long term. Okay. This is the last slide of this. The next time we come together, we'll talk about how to reverse you out of your weight loss deficit. Okay. Many of us might not need to go there. So maybe we'll come back to the phases the next time we connect. Right. I'll take a poll and see how you all are feeling about this. Overall, thoughts, questions, reflections from this call today. Anything that we're leaving with or anything that would be helpful for the group. I really do appreciate y'all being here.
I find that I'm deeply reflective and hopeful, and really started to notice patterns and make sense of things. And I feel like the light bulb just went off with today's session.
Good, Amy. I'm glad to hear that.
I thank you. This was great. And also all of this time that it's been taking. And I mean, like, I feel really good that it has happened for me slow because it's not a bad thing. And today has helped me to see it's not a bad thing.
It's not. It's frustrating, but it's not bad. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else?
A reminder of grace. Give yourself some grace because we're relearning a lot of bad habits, bad thoughts, bad practices, and internalized beliefs about ourselves. And before I started, I would say, oh no, I know what to do. I just need to do it. But Coach K, the way she breaks down some information has really informed how many misconceptions that I had. Like I always thought, oh no, I'm eating too much protein or I'm eating too many meats. No, Tara, you eat too many carbs and you need to make leaner protein choices. And it wasn't, and so but it's giving yourself a little grace to learn these things and pivot.
Love that. And it's true.
This has
It's
been
true.
extremely, extremely helpful for me. And I'm walking away today with someone said to be committed, not just interested. And
Mhm.
that really hit home for me in conjunction with it's a guarantee that your body can do this. So that's kind of what I'm stuck on and contemplating right now. It's been so very helpful, and everybody's participation. I'm new here, so it's been extremely helpful. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you too, Stacy. Thanks for being here. Anybody else want to add anything else to this conversation? I think if there were one thing that I could add is kind of in relation to what Sonia was saying. You should be rewarding yourself. You should. You should be clapping for yourself and praising yourself and giving yourself the acknowledgement you deserve for sticking with it, for seeing it through, for deciding even that you wanted to start again, for deciding that you're going to restart, for communicating, for holding yourself accountable, for going to the grocery store, for getting your steps in, for completing your training. You deserve your praise and recognition for this, because this journey can feel very lonely, and it can feel a lot like I'm pounding down, I'm getting down on myself. I got to do this. I got to push. And that's one side of the conversation. But the other side of the conversation is you nurturing yourself while you do, right? Yes, push and discipline and focus and drive, but also grace and consideration and acknowledgement and praise and nurture. So how are you going to nurture and celebrate yourself? One, for showing up today. This Saturday morning. Nobody wants to be here. Thank y'all for coming, right? How are you going to acknowledge yourself for showing up for today? And then how are you going to celebrate yourself for the steps that you did take, even if they were incredibly small? Because we know that small steps build up to big habits, okay? Nurture yourself, reward yourself, get a massage, get your toes done, get your eyebrows done, put on something nice, get some new perfume, fill in the blank, go to Starbucks. I don't care what you do, but praise yourself for your decision to show up again this week, okay? And that's all I have. That's all she wrote. Y'all, thank you so much for making some time for me. I super duper duper appreciate it. If there is any way I can be helpful this week, you know where to find me. I'm officially closing the laptop, so I'll see y'all on Monday. You have a wonderful weekend, and I'll talk to you soon.
No,
Thanks,
thank
Coach.
you. Thank you.
All right. Yes, yes, yes. All right. Hello.
Hey, Coach, I was wondering if I could have just a few minutes.
Let me quadruple check and make sure I don't have somebody right behind. 1 second. Yep, we're good. Let me stop recording. 1 second. Hold on.